I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by my co-host with Harrison Bader like hair.
Yeah, it's a weird ordeal. Katie is just proving to be childish.
Which is why I don't feel I would give $5 million to Jack Campbell.
I don't know. Baseball is one of those sports where anyone who makes the playoffs really can be a contender.
I think the Padres definitely do it.
I don't think Donovan Mitchell gets traded.
Kyrie Irving does have the track record of not being a great locker room fit, or even good locker room fit.
Bader got some luscious locks. I gotta say it.
This is Zach Bigley, the broadcaster for the Frisco Rough Riders, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin. You guys better subscribe.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our MLB Opinions of the Week. I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by the man that we can all agree this is probably the worst outlook of the three teams we have done, and that is the Philadelphia Phillies as they continue to age and they have to find more players to replace, and it does not look well for them after losing in the divisional round.
Yeah. Kyle Schwarber could leave, and that is a huge thing. He's a free agent, and he's an MVP candidate this year. He had major home runs during his postseason run or series against the Dodgers, and the age of all their players, the Zach Wheeler injury. They do have Christopher Sanchez, who's amazing, but they have a lot of concerns, not just re-signing guys, but also injury-wise and also age-wise. So I would agree with you that as long as the Tigers re-sign Skubal, that the Phillies have the worst outlook near and far future comparatively.
Yeah, and with the Phillies, they do have players, but they've been to the playoffs consistently the past few years, and they continue to add. But now those guys continue to age. Yes, they do have Christopher Sanchez, but there's a lot more to the roster besides one starting pitcher. The question about Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, those are all valid questions. And I just don't think they can go out and spend their problems away like some other teams, like the Dodgers can. So it's either it looks like a massive overhaul to me of what the Phillies have to go through to get back to a contending team as teams continue to get better, like the Dodgers, but you also have the Padres. The Giants, to me, I think, is always seemed like a scary team, especially with Buster Posey at the helm and willing to make big moves, like trading for Rafael Devers. So that's where what's next for the Phillies is you have to wonder about roster construction. How are you going to rebuild this roster?
Yeah, and you have to kind of go into it assuming that you don't bring back Schwarber, because if you go into it banking on him and only negotiating with a player of Schwarber's caliber, you'll miss out on a lot of the other great players that are in free agency this year.
Yeah, I think you could talk to Schwarber and try to sign him, but you have to be willing to pay a huge amount of money for him because he is an MVP candidate. So that you just have to be willing to go into the luxury tax, because to me there are other issues. Or you do trades. You trade other guys away to bring in different parts that you need.
Yeah. They're just an old team, and they haven't been able to win, and that's a testament to heartbreaking losses, some bad postseason play, and just pure luck in some parts. But I do think that this free agency asks a lot more questions than most teams are going to be here, because you really do have to answer what it is worth to keep this team around and contending, and whether or not that's realistic for the timetable of all these players' careers.
Absolutely. And you mentioned they're old. This is a team, Yankees and Tigers, depending on what happens with Skubal, but their windows are pretty much open. They're in the open stage. Phillies, this is what happens when your window after contending is closing and basically is closed. You have to figure out what you can do to open that window again, and that usually means taking time to rebuild. You can quickly rebuild with money, but that could also not fix your problem. those signings could fail, and the problem still exists of just you don't have enough players to compete in the MLB at that high level.
Yeah. And I think that they will either try to run it back or there will be a huge amount of trades that happen around the trade deadline for the Phillies, kind of selling off and preparing for the next era of Phillies baseball.
Yeah, I do think they run it back and they do their best to re-sign Schwarber. If he doesn't re-sign with them, that's when I think you could see a lot of trades happening. But if they have a bad start to the season, they could definitely start trading guys. I don't see them firing manager. They could fire Dave Dombrowski because they could view him as we need a different GM to rebuild this all. He's really is a contending GM and making moves to build now instead of the future.
Yeah. They've lost in the first round, or not the first round, their first series, the NLDS, both times. Last year to the Mets, this year to the Dodgers, both in 4 games. Harper's missed a little bit of time this year, but he still looks really good. And he's only, I think, 32. Let me check. Yeah, he's 32, turns 33 later this week. But it's just a little bit concerning because you know that they are going to be there's not as many young guys to bring up, right? There's not many guys you can fill holes easily. It's going to be a tough trek, and the NL is only getting more and more competitive, I think, in the future. And the Phillies are kind of on their downward slope, as a lot of teams are on their high.
100%. And one question to me is Bryce Harper. Because to me, he doesn't seem like a guy willing to go through a rebuild. He wants to compete now. So I could see them, if they're not able to re-sign Schwarber and they don't do a lot of signings to compete now, they have talks with him about trading him.
Yeah, and I think that all comes down more to the Zach Wheeler injury, whether or not he's able to return early next year. Because if he's not, then you don't have your best pitcher, even though you do, again, have Christopher Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo. But losing a guy like Zach Wheeler for any portion of next season will be brutal. And like you said, I don't think Bryce Harper is going to go through a rebuild, but I also don't think that he wants to leave if he doesn't have to. So if he thinks they're a playoff contender, I think he's going to stay. But if at any point they seem like they may take a step back majorly and be a team that does not make the playoffs, I do think they would trade him.
Yeah, it really depends on what Harper does and kind of how he speaks about it. That will be a big question to me in this offseason, not just Schwarber, but kind of what is Harper's reaction to everything the Phillies are doing. So we'll have to see what happens. I'll let you close this one out.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Please let us know what you guys think about the Phillies next year and what they can do to help better their team.